there. And we are ready for liftoff. Yes, humanity's destiny begins. Our 11th class of the semester. Welcome, everyone, to our continuation of New World and the Third Millennium, building towards next week, which will be starting on the human brain and neuroscience, leading towards our final topic of the semester, which is legacy. So we are coming to the top of the mountain, if you will, or the end of the road, or the final stretch, whatever metaphor you want to use. We're coming into the final part of the semester, and we have 4 classes left in Humanities Destiny. And so, what we're going to do today is do our final um, class on the little module that we've been exploring the last 2 classes, and that is New Worlds and the Third Millennium, or essentially space exploration, everything that's happening off the planet. And I also want to make sure that everybody is on track with the final reflection that's coming at the end of the semester. So it's due in about 4 weeks or 3 weeks. I know who's going to know this because she always has a question about this. Maybe she has the answer off the top of her head. Brooklyn, when is the final reflection due?
April 16th.
Way to go. So, did everybody hear that? She's always on top of this, or she'll ask a question about this. And so, that final reflection is really important. And I want to make sure that we have a chance to start talking about it. Also, remember that your third reflection was due last night. And I think I saw something from Daniel. I think I saw something from you a few days ago, or it was in, or did it come in last night? That's okay. Get it mixed up with the other students. Good. Brooklyn, I've seen hers is in. I'll be marking it. Sarah, is your third reflection submitted? Yes, good. Came in on the chat. Excellent. And Ethan, is it Ethan? I think, or Ethan? Can you correct me on the pronunciation on
Yeah, it's
that?
Ethan.
Ethan, way to go. Yeah, Ethan, I think I saw your third reflection, right? That's been submitted.
Yeah.
Excellent. So everybody's good. And the most important thing is after so much work and tweaking this format, we're getting the tech really working quite fluidly now. So I can interact with the live chat, the audio, the notes, everything. Great. Okay, so tomorrow is a big marking day for me, and I will be marking the third reflections over the next few days of all the students. But before we get going on the final part of New World, space exploration, the third millennium, does anybody have any questions? I'll check and see in the cosmos. Looking pretty quiet. Sarah, Brooklyn, and Nathan. Daniel, grab a mic, okay, and start us off. Daniel's got a question, and we're going to get rolling.
Well, it's just for I believe it was last class's recording.
Yes.
I went back to look at the recording to do my reflection. The last week 10, I think it was. It didn't show the whole thing.
I'm glad you mentioned that. And I was supposed to put a note about that. And that means you are alert. Guess what happened? We learned when we did the breakout group that it killed the YouTube live stream. And I didn't know that until after the class. So what you'll see in the recording is you'll see the class going up until a breakout, and then we break out and it ends.
Yeah, because it ends just before the group discussion, which I think
Yeah.
was like some of the most valuable
We lost it, and
discussion that we had.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you. I was being a little bit sort of observant. I was going to put a note out on DC Connect and tell the students that, but I wanted to see who would actually ask. I was curious to see about student motivation, so I wondered, would anybody email me and ask? Because that would mean they're watching, and that would be good. Nobody did, but at last, here we are, a student has asked, and there's your answer, Daniel. So
Okay.
sorry about that. But is there anything in particular you wanted to know that we can review now from the missing part?
No, not really.
Okay. So I see something's come in on the live chat from Brooklyn. Let's take a look at this and see what she's saying. For reflection floor 4, want to do, come on in. Oh, no, it's not Kiera, it's Kanisha. Kanisha. Yeah, come on in, Kanisha. For reflection 4, I want to do the PowerPoint slideshow one, and I was wondering how many slides I need for that, and if I could talk about a few things, or if I could only talk about one topic. Great question. Okay. Huh. I'd like to address this, Brooklyn. So it's important that I do for all of the students, because I want to make sure that if you're going to take on a PowerPoint, it's going to be really well done PowerPoint. So I'm saying this now as a professor wearing a different hat. I'm now going back a few years when I used to teach presentation techniques. And I'm also going to talk about some of my thoughts about PowerPoints in general. So Brooklyn, are you ready for this? Good. Okay. In terms of the number of slides, I would say that 8 to 10 slides is fine. Okay, but here is where we run into a bit of a problem, okay, in terms of how you do this. Let me just check and see if Sarah's asking about the same thing. You said we could do something art related, right? What would be good? Excellent questions, both of you, that you're asking about this 4th reflection, because this one's worth 35%, and I want to make sure you do really well on this. So, Brooklyn, in your slides, I'm going to tell you what should be the one thing you cannot do. You promise me you will not do. And that is that you're going to put a lot of text on a slide with bullet points, and then you're going to proceed to read what's on those slides. If you do that, if the content is good, great. But if you do that kind of format, I would give you a very low mark on the presentation part, what we'll call the mechanics. Because in the rubric, there's 5 things I'm looking for. So mechanics, how you write it, how you produce it, how you put whatever slides together is important. So Brooklyn, have you ever seen a really well done PowerPoint, like a great PowerPoint in all the years that you've been a student? You probably have, haven't you? No, exactly. Okay. Now, is that really true, or is it just having fun? Because I need to know now if this is true. That's what I thought. Brooklyn, for quite some years now, there's been a general school of thought in education that goes something like this: death by PowerPoint. And if you've noticed, I don't have PowerPoints in my classes. I've designed something different because I believe that PowerPoints are deadly, generally done badly, and are killing classrooms and presentations in general. Somehow, though, the idea of a presentation and a PowerPoint has become so tied together in our culture that whenever anybody is giving a presentation to a boardroom, for a job, to their team in a classroom, immediately they think PowerPoint. And it may be because ... I'm not sure. That's a bigger conversation. So, Brooklyn, if you're going to do a PowerPoint, it has to be really well done. So, what is a good PowerPoint? Brooklyn, do you want to jump on? Are you able to jump on your microphone? It'll go a little faster. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead. So, what's a good PowerPoint?
Something that's really informative
Yes.
with
And
like
yep,
with
go
lots of
ahead.
information.
Well, yes and no. Brooklyn, while we're talking, would you be able to open up another tab?
Sure.
Go on that tab to a program or to a site called SlideShare. Just enter
Okay.
SlideShare, and see. This is where you see the best PowerPoints from around the world that are posted by people all over. And I think that's the site, because I want you to see what is a really well done PowerPoint. And
Okay.
SlideShare, I'll bring it up here, okay, and see if I can do this on the fly, where I'm kind of teaching totally on the fly right now, but that's okay. It's all doable. I'll bring my tab in here, and I'll open it up as well. But let's see. I need a tab. Come on in, Zach, and I'll do it here. So let me go over to SlideShare. Yeah, here we are. Share and discover presentations. Get inspired. There we go. Good. Okay. So, Brooklyn, behind me on the big board would be the same thing you see on your tab. Do you see what?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, everybody. So, first of all, I want you to know that if you're going to do a PowerPoint, let me just repeat. Yes, you can do it 8 to 10 slides, but each slide has to be brilliantly done. Okay. And you also have another application that you could use that adds this. Instead of PowerPoint, use Prezi. Has anybody seen a Prezi before? Okay, you could do that too. Okay. Yeah, and it moves around and it's more animated. Okay, Prezi. But the point, it's the same concept though. Whether you do Prezi, whether you do PowerPoint, you're still working with slides. It's just that with Prezis, you can make it move in sort of 3 dimensions, like a cube or whatever. But in the end, when things stop moving, you're landing on a slide again. Okay. So for Zach and for Erica and anyone who hasn't been here yet, I would just repeat that we're just dealing with some questions now from students before we get going. And I wanted to talk about the 4th assignment to make sure you're ready. And Brooklyn and Sarah had some questions about them, so I'm addressing that, okay? And the first question was Sarah or Brooklyn asking about, can she do a PowerPoint? And I said, be careful, because PowerPoints can be deadly. So, absolutely. I'm completely, Kanisha asked if she could do a brochure. You will see in the assignment sheet that you can choose any medium that you want. But the content has to be what comes from the class. So whether you do a video, whether you do a written paper of 1,400 to 1,500 words, whether you do a PowerPoint, whether you choose to do a brochure, you'll see in the examples that I gave with the assignment, you'll see lots of examples that the medium doesn't matter. It's the content that matters. So you're free to express yourself however you like, as long as you are expressing the content from the class. Okay, so that's good. Why do you ask? I'll come back to you, Brooklyn, in a second. Why do you ask a brochure? Just curious. Okay, great. Okay, so yeah, Canvas, brochure is great. Brooklyn, to come back to you, I would spend some time on SlideShare to see some really good PowerPoints. But my suggestion to you is that you think more visually and that you start to think of your slides sort of like something you see on the subway or the bus in terms of an advertisement, in terms of that kind of illustration and design that's been given to each slide. And that the content that you put on it should be text light, not text heavy. That the slide should be nice to look at, and that the content that you've chosen to put there is absolutely critical content. So that we like looking at the slide, and that when you're talking over the slide, we're not fighting that. We're not trying to understand what you're saying and then read what's on the slide. We get the critical thing from the slide in the critical information you put there, and we'll listen to what you're saying. And the other thing you don't want to be doing, which is unfortunately what is still done by many, many people in institutions all over the world, is they will put a whole bunch of bullet points up on a they stand next to your screen and they read you what's on the slides. That's deadly, and it's lazy, and it's not acceptable in this classroom. There's a much better way to do this. This is more sophisticated. So make sure that you don't do those things and that you spend some time thinking about individual slides. Is this making sense?
Yeah, it is.
Great. Okay. Brooklyn, do you have any other questions about that? Oh, one topic. Can you read out loud what you wrote just so I can look out here and follow you at the same time? Go ahead.
Sure. I asked if I could talk about a few things in it or just like if it has to be just one topic.
Well, it's interesting because I think this is the second time you've asked this. You asked this around your third reflection, right? Could you do multiple topics as opposed to one topic, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a little bit concerned now about attention span. And I would rather that you pick one topic and go more deeply than skating over, like it's starting to feel like, this is how I'm feeling. It's starting to feel like a TikTok sort of presentation. You just a whole bunch of little bits. I want you to go deep. So one topic, Brooklyn. Okay?
Okay.
It's really important. And if you're really, really struggling with that, just shoot me an email, okay? I can always help you, but I think you're completely up to it.
Okay.
Good. Anything else? You good? Okay. So Sarah, could you read out loud what you've put in the live chat? Or are you not disposed on your microphone right now? Your microphone is not working, or it's not present? It just...
Can you
Oh,
hear
yeah.
me?
Yeah, absolutely. So go ahead and read.
I will. I just had a question. I think Brooklyn might have tried to say it, but I don't think she was unmuted. So with her slideshow, would she have to like do a presentation to the class then too? Because I know you don't want all the information on the slide, right? You just want a little bit. Would she have to like do it? How would that work?
Well, that's another good question, because I was assuming, and I may be wrong, that Brooklyn was going to hand in that and not present it to the class. She was going to voice over the slides. Brooklyn, are you planning to present that to the class?
No.
Yeah, that's exactly. You were planning to press send and it'll be a PowerPoint I look at and I also listen to with the narration, or is there no narration? It's just PowerPoint, nothing else.
I thought it would just be the PowerPoint and nothing else.
Okay. Then there need to be more slides. Yeah, because you're going to be having to present more information. Sorry, I thought it was going to be narrated. Well, here's a
That's okay.
challenge. Just a second. Here's a challenge. I always, or have in the past, for final classes of the semester, I've always left them open for student presentations to come in and present to other students. But that idea basically died with the pandemic. And since the pandemic, and we've developed this hybrid Superflex format, a lot of students don't come to the classes, and that's fine. They watch the recordings, and the ones who come want to be here, and that's great, and we have good conversations. If Brooklyn, I'm prepared to leave the final class, April the 15th, I think it is, open to student presentations. And I'm prepared to have students come if they want and present and stand here and do what I do and present to a group of students. And I can even increase the size of the audience for you, Brooklyn, by actually taking attendance that day and adding some marks to it, minor marks, so that I make it worth students' while to be here. Now, I can do that. You know, and I love student presentations live. I used to do that all the time, 60 students, and we'd have great conversations. But that's, things have evolved over the last years with the pandemic and everything. Brooklyn, do you see the advantage to you in developing communication skills to be able to come and stand up here like I do and present your PowerPoint to everybody? Do you see the advantage in that?
I do, but I'm also not the best in front of people.
Okay, well, Brooklyn, hang in there because I'm going to ask you some tough questions now. And if I'm going too far, just say, Lon, please, I'm sick of looking at you and hearing your voice. Give the microphone to Zach or Daniel, okay? Brooklyn, how old are you?
I'm 18.
Yeah. Would you like to leave your teenage years still acting and thinking like a teenager?
No.
So what do you think not acting like a teenager is?
Showing up to present.
Good, number one. And number two, what might you gain from the experience of showing up to present that will make you no longer a teenager?
More confidence.
How come you know all the answers? I guess you're not
I don't
really
know.
a teenager. I think you might want to give some thought to the sense of pride that you're going to gain, and you're going to get live reaction from the students. And I may even do something that I used to do years ago, but I stopped. I'll give each student a piece of paper, and they'll write down their thoughts of how they thought about your presentation. And based on my experience, if you put work into that presentation, you will walk out of here with a pile of little bits of, way to go, girl. That was amazing. Really liked what you did on that. I learned something from that, and you're gonna keep those things because they will remind you of how you did well and how you showed courage. And that's the beginning of being a grown up, a real grown up. Courage. You move on from the little stuff. You're into bigger things. If you want to do that, can you answer that now, or do you need time to think about it?
I need time to think about it.
Okay, great. Good. Did I go too far in my questions?
No.
Okay, good. All right. So, Sarah has a question. You said we could do something art related. Has that question been answered, Sarah? Would you say?
Not really. I understand that I would probably have to do a presentation as well because I wouldn't have like specifically words to it. I know I'd have to do that, but I was just wondering, like, has anyone done something art related in the past? Like, do you have any
Yes.
criteria for that, or?
I've had students present small paintings that they did. I've had students present little sculptures. I've had students do scenes, panels from a graphic novel. I've had, if you look at the examples that I gave on DC Connect in the assignment 4 sheet instructions, the links, go down and look at the, there's a not a brochure, but a kind of a magazine format that a student did that was really amazing. So, Sarah, the sky's the limit. You can do any kind of format as long as, if you were presenting, for example, as long as it would fit within the 12 to 15 minutes of the length of your presentation. So let's say you were presenting something that you, let's say you did a poster. Let's say, you put the poster up, maybe it's a digital poster, some digital image or a series of images, and we put them up on the big board. You could be explaining to all the students as you're showing us the different images, what they mean and how they speak to your topic. So it could be something like that, but you're explaining to us in the presentation what we're seeing. Or it could be a video, 4 to 5 minutes that you show us, and then afterwards we have a little discussion about that video. Either way, if you present it to the students here, they're going to watch it live with you. You will get the little pieces of paper with their reactions, and we have a little conversation. That's if you do it live, or you can just send it to me as well. It's up to you. But you have that kind of freedom to explore. What were you thinking of using? What kind of medium were you thinking of doing it as an art-related presentation?
Honestly, I have no idea currently, but I'm in school for art, so I thought that would be like a little easier for me to, than having
sure.
to write that much. Honestly, I'd rather just talk a lot than write a lot, or like paint it or something.
Yeah. And what program are you in?
I'm in Foundations of Art and Design.
Yeah. So I would highly recommend that the medium that you do the final assignment in is the medium that you're studying here at the college, which is Foundations in Art and Design. So the answer is yes. And if there's anything else you'd like to bring to me, then put it in the live chat. We can review it later, or you can email me. Okay? Great. Okay, so I see Aria sent something, but I want to come around to all of you. So let me just check and see. Great. So Aria has, look at that. You put it in the live chat to direct me to the email? Wow, that's cool. Thank you. So we will look at some more iron-blooded orphans soon, and perhaps what we'll do as a way of demonstrating a bit of how a presentation might look, we'll get Aria to come up here and introduce it and tell us what this scene is about and why it's relevant, and then we'll watch it and we'll talk about it. That's a presentation. We might, okay, so get ready for that. But let's make sure we're dealing with everything else, and then I want to tell you about today's topic. Okay, so Zach, Daniel, Aria, Kanisha, and our wonderful visitor, Erica. Is there anything you'd like to add right now? Okay. Then let me go to the main part of the class, and then we're going to come back and have Aria demonstrate some more about all that great stuff that's in her head about the future, because she's walking around this campus with a big imagination, lots of ideas ready and bursting to come out. So let them come out here, and we will all be lucky. Last class, it ended with our visitor, Erica, talking about death. And I said that we would revisit it as a part of our review for this. So, Erica, can you remind us of why is it that we were talking about death in a class about the third millennium? And can you remind us of what you were trying to tell us? Go ahead. I think it might have even been said off camera or something. Grab that, and then we're still in the third millennium, New Worlds module, and we're finishing up today. So, Erica, go ahead.
So last class, talking about the future, talking about look hopeful and what the technology will look like and how it will impact each individual. And we talked about health and how we think that we'll use technology to prolong people's lives. So people want to live to 100, people want to live to 150. So we said different things about how life could be boring if you live that long. People would become lazy because they have, I have so many years left to live. I don't need to do any work tomorrow. So I said that there's a peace, urgency, and caution with having shorter lives. Obviously, it's not like let's say 50 years ago, maybe life expectancy was like 60 or something, and now we have like 80, 70. But I think we have found like a good life expectancy per se right now in most developed countries that gives you the peace even if you were to live to 150, even with a great body, a great mind, there's a peace in just welcoming death, whatever religion people have. It makes you want to spend your time preciously. It makes you want to be cautious when you're moving through things. If you think, oh, there's no way I'm going to die today, so I can eat junk for like the next 50 years, or I cannot work for the next 50 years. I still have 100 years to work for. So there's meaning in life when you have a shorter time to spend it. If you know you only have, if you know you only have a small amount of money, in fact, a small amount of time, I'm like, I know I'm not going to do everything and see everything because I don't need to, because I don't need to have that all that capacity left away on my brain. So I'm going to pick one that's most precious to me and more meaningful to me. If you're living 150, it's like, oh, for the first 50 years, I'm going to become a doctor. The next 50 years, I'm going to become a veterinarian. Next one, I'm going to be a pilot. You don't need to do all that.
Beautifully said. And I'm going to suggest to our visitor from another planet that you go over to the smartboard and would you do us a favor and Maureen can help you, but just create a slide and start writing as best you can what you just said to us. And if you need to erase it and let Maureen show you, okay, Erica? That's great. I think that that's a really important contribution that she's just made about the sacredness of life and our appreciation of it. Now, while Erica's doing that, I would like to just let you know of how I would like to proceed with today's class in terms of the final part of New Worlds and the Third Millennium. And also, then we can have a little conversation and make sure that we have time for Aria to come up and present a scene. New Worlds in the Third Millennium, when we talk about the next 1,000 years and where humanity is going in terms of our exploration of space, we've also established so far that there's another perspective that comes from the book City of Mars that I presented to you, which is that we need to think seriously about what we need to be doing on this planet before we ramp up going somewhere else. And I also wanted you to think about the more kind of enterprising part of this too, not just the critical part, but the part that says, go, let's go and let's see and let's explore, because this is very much a part of our future as well. And on that note, I brought in somebody today, a giant in this, who's a very forward-looking, hopeful thinker and who's quite well known. I didn't have a chance to put his picture up on the board. I was too busy, but I brought his book, and his name is Carl Sagan. And Carl Sagan is the original Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm sure that you know Neil deGrasse Tyson. Probably you've seen. He's everywhere. He loves the camera, and he's good. But maybe he just, from my estimation, might be just a bit overexposed right now. But this happens. People start to love the camera too much. That's just my view. But he's great. Neil deGrasse Tyson was a student of Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan is sort of the original popular astronomer who hosted a classic television series in the 1980s called Cosmos. And Neil deGrasse Tyson then went and did his remake of that, and that's his Cosmos. But Carl Sagan is sort of the original, and he was very enthusiastic about the human future in space. And a little later, I'm going to try and find a good passage to read from this, but his view generally is that we humans have just dipped our toe into the ocean of space. And now that we've dipped our toe into it, let's keep going and not be afraid. And let's make sure that we put as much money and as much effort into trying to understand what's out there on Jupiter and Venus and Mars and and the next solar system and the next galaxy, and let's go after those exoplanets, those other planets that are around other stars in other solar systems, because we probably will find something there that gets close to the ingredients of life. And he was incredibly open and wanted to communicate this to the public. And that's what then led to his great classic television series, Cosmos, that I watched when I was a teenager and that so inspired Neil deGrasse Tyson. When we talk about new worlds and we talk about space exploration, I'm wondering if we're missing something in these classes so far. And I wanted to ask you today to think about now a little bit. Is there something that you wished we would be touching on when it comes to space exploration that we haven't yet? And we will do that. We will spend, 15, 20 minutes, maybe a half an hour exploring this. And I'm happy to teach off my toes. It's the part of teaching I love the most, if I can come into a class and just teach exactly what the students want me to teach at that moment. Because I have enough in my head and enough experience. I can do that. So I'd like you to think about this for now. I've tried to present you two perspectives so far. Very introductory about space exploration. There's the City of Mars one, which is don't go yet, hold back, solve the problems on the planet here first, grow up as humans on planet Earth first, before we start going into space when we're not grown up yet, because we're going to, if we go there as teenagers and not grown-ups, we're going to mess it up big time. And the damage is going to be even worse because we have such powerful tools now of destruction. And we don't want to contaminate more than just the planet. That's the more critical view. Then there's Carl Sagan and others who say, let's do it, let's go. Whatever we discover, whatever we will see, will continue to inspire human beings about their capacity for adventure. And even if we're not solving any major problems down here, one cannot deny the power of seeing another human being stand on the moon or landing on Mars or developing new kinds of propulsion and rockets that take us faster and further. This is an inspiration to us all about what humans can be and what we aspire to do. That's the Carl Sagan view of space exploration. Go forth into the ocean, now. Don't be afraid now of wading into the deeper ocean that we've just touched with our toe. Maybe there's something that you feel so far in space exploration that we really need to touch on a little bit more. And we'll do that today. So what I'd like to ask you to do over the next just couple of minutes is just sit and think a little bit. And you don't need to get into any groups or pairs. I'll just go around the cosmos. I'll start in the cosmos with Sarah and Brooklyn, Ethan, and then I'll come in here and let's see what you come up with. Space is our future. There's no question about that in one form or another. And I've noticed in the reflections, your third reflections, that this is resonating. A lot of students are saying, I really like these space classes. When I think about the last few classes, they'll say, I really like the space stuff. I'm a space nerd, some will say, or, I really am fascinated by this and I want to know more. And I absolutely am with you on that. But there's only so much we can do in 90 minutes each class, and we have a lot more to do with brain, neuroscience, and other things. So I do feel, though, there are things that maybe you feel we're missing at this point, given your interest. So here's what I'd like you to do. Sarah, Brooklyn, and Ethan, in the live chat, while we're talking here, I would like the three of you to start putting in what you think we've been missing so far, and I'll give you time to do that, but we're not going to wait for you in the live chat. That's going to happen while we're talking. And then we're going to come back and we're going to look at your comments in the live chat. And I think that's the way I'm going to handle this, the live chat and the in-person, because I've been thinking about how to do this, the multimedia part. Brooklyn, is that clear?
Yeah, but can you just repeat the question one more time?
Sure. Okay. So Brooklyn, Ethan, and Sarah, what do you feel in our space exploration, or what do you feel in our third millennium classes? Because third millennium is all about new worlds and space exploration. It's the next 1,000 years. What do you feel in these last 2 classes about this space part that we've been missing that you'd like to explore? Please enter that in the live chat. Okay, understood?
Yes.
Okay, great. Go ahead. And then let's move this around now. And I'm going to ask each of you off the top of your head, what are we missing? It's a big topic, and I can only give you the broadest of strokes about this in terms of time, but maybe we can get a little more specific right now. And so why don't we start with Daniel? Daniel's always ready, and then we'll go around here, okay? So Daniel, what would you and we'll get this down. Maureen, would you be able to write this down? Yeah, thanks. Okay. So what are we missing? Maureen's going to put it in the notes, and we'll make sure. So what we're missing, Daniel, go ahead.
To be honest, there's nothing like huge that I think that we're missing out on. We kind of touched on a lot of the interesting things that, or at least I find interesting with
Yeah.
like I remember that I think a little while ago we talked about SpaceX and like what they're doing and Elon Musk's vision to maybe do something with Mars and stuff like
That's
that.
right. That's right.
I think trying to get to a new planet such as Mars and trying to discover and try to explore that. I think that's kind of interesting since we know very little. But I think we touched on most of the things that because I don't really think about, I'm not such a space nerd like what some other
Okay.
people are
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
But I do still find it interesting.
Yeah.
There's just not a whole lot that I think I could add that we
Okay,
haven't touched
great.
on.
Well, thanks. Okay. Zach, want to take the mic and anything particular?
I'm not really too sure. There's nothing in particular that I feel like we have to discuss in this class. Like, you can get a little deeper into stuff, but like, I don't know if we want to get into like.
Well,
I
that's
don't know,
okay. If there's
quantum
one thing
mechanics
that
or
you
anything.
feel, when it
Doesn't
comes
seem
to space,
necessary.
it's really important that we're missing. If not, it's okay.
I mean, there's plenty that's interesting, but I don't know if there's anything that's like particularly important. Like we've discussed like the ethics of it and this and that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different stuff. Like, it's just like interesting theories, like Fermi paradoxes, the wall, and stuff like that. Different levels of civilization, but it's not particularly necessary. It's just kind of interesting stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have to discuss it.
Okay. A question. Do you believe that going to space, just going there, not knowing what we're going to find, but going there and spending billions of dollars to do that is good for humanity?
Probably not in the immediate future. I think that once we sort things out, and aren't, on the verge of collapse, probably that'll be cool to go explore stuff. But yeah, spending billions of dollars just doesn't quite feel right when we have so many problems. I love space exploration. I spend plenty of time looking at the stuff, like looking
Yeah.
into it.
Good.
But I don't know how much I can support.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. Like, I know SpaceX's method of testing their rockets, just launching like hundreds of them and crashing a bunch of them until they work. Like, that feels a little crazy. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this.
Okay. Well, at least you're thinking. Okay. It's good. We're going to continue. Okay. With Aria, and then Kiara, I'm sure is going to have lots to say. She always does. That's good. And I like that reflection. Your third reflection. I was reading it last night. Way to go. You like discussions and you've got a good energy and head on your shoulders, and make sure you take care of it. Okay. So let's go over to area and see where's the mic. I'll give you the mic here. What are we missing so far, if there's anything? And please go ahead.
I think what the main thing we're missing in space exploration is the methods to be more sustainable and safer so that we don't damage the environment while we're exploring.
Great.
Because
point.
when we're in like the period where we're still looking and like taking information,
Yeah.
but that already costs so much money and it's already damaging the space environment.
Yeah.
So by the time we're ready to actually move into the environment, it's going to be the same state as Earth,
Absolutely.
which defeats the purpose of
Yep.
leaving Earth and going to another planet.
It's really well put. One of the biggest questions that we are facing, we humans, is sustainability of human civilization itself. Now, we're getting into a very big topic here, but there's never been a time in human history where the creatures on this planet have created so much waste and have changed the planet and changed themselves. I should remind you of something around sustainability that's really, really important. And I think Aria is putting her thumb and her fingers on raw nerves here, which is the class that I gave on sustaining it is a really important thing to think about, because if we don't address these questions now on Earth, Aria has a very good point that we're just going to repeat the same problems elsewhere. And that wouldn't be good for anybody, including our solar system and beyond. Next summer, actually this summer, 2024, in Korea, we are going to be exploring this more in the global classroom with Mayreen, and who speaks Korean, started a Korean club here and everything. And why don't you come over for a second, okay? Bring the microphone. In Korea, there will be a big conference. I mean, you can hold that in a moment, where the world's geologists are about to announce there that the planet is now entering a new time. It's called the Anthropocene, the era of the humans, the age of the humans. Humans are causing all the changes on the planet. And that's going to be your future and the future of their children, and then the future of their children and their children, going all the way into the future. And the reason the scientists are prepared to do that is because of something I think I might have told you, but I'd like to just tell you a little bit more about Crawford Lake. Do you remember Crawford Lake? In this summer, the scientists are going to confirm that Crawford Lake is the Golden Spike location. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you've learned of the geology, or do you have any more information about the geological group that's meeting there in Korea?
So it's the International Geographical Conference that they're having in South Korea. It's not happening in the capital of Seoul. It's happening in a city called Busan, which interesting fact was one of the cities which would have potentially hosted the 2030 World Expo.
Okay.
They were one of the cities in the bid,
Yes.
but eventually, obviously, Saudi Arabia, Riyadh won the bid for that. So they're going to have it at one of their big kind of exhibition centers that they have in Busan, and yep, it's going to happen this summer.
This summer, do you know
and
what the dates are?
I haven't confirmed the dates yet, but I think it's either July or August.
We'll have more information on it as we continue to look at this. But this is just one more example of how humans are changing a lot, and the sustainability of our progress is very, very important. And so we need to think about what might be a topic today that we can address around space exploration. and sustainability. So you feel that we are missing how to explore space in a sustainable way. Is that what you're saying? Okay. A good question. Okay, let's go over to Kanisha. Can you write that? How can we explore off planet in a sustainable way and not upset the environment the way we have here? I don't know. But it's quite the question. Okay, so Kiara, what are we missing?
So, something that we're missing, and I'm going to go way off base here. I'm going to go way, way off base. So hear me out. Human evolution, and not just like human evolution as like a society, but biological evolution.
Yes.
How will we evolve as human beings when we move to different planets? That's what I'm curious about. Beings on Earth can only evolve so much depending on their environments. Obviously, we've seen how like bears can change their fur color depending on their environment to further sustain their lives. So I was just questioning, like, if we move to another planet, even if they're within the Goldilocks zone, like how our planet is,
Yes, right.
it's bound to have different kinds of climates, different kinds of environments that us humans aren't built for naturally. So obviously, we'll have to a certain degree, evolve ourselves to be able to live in those environments properly. My question is,
That's right.
how will we be able to do that, and how long will it take until we're fully evolved enough to be able to sustain ourselves in those environments, even without the help of technology?
Well, we wouldn't.
Well,
we
maybe
can't
like
go without technology.
yeah, maybe not
It's
fully
just
without
that
technology.
There's no way
to a
we
certain
could.
extent.
We couldn't breathe. There wouldn't be enough oxygen, or there may be other chemicals as well. So
Yes.
we will need our technology. We just can't
Yeah.
to
So
survive.
will we evolve at all because of technology, or will we not evolve?
It's a great question, and I'm going to make a suggestion that you try to answer that in your final reflection with research,
I guess so.
because your final reflection, however you choose to do it, is your major reflection, and it requires research. And I'm expecting 3 to 5 sources in your work cited. You have to give supporting examples. A student like you who has the energy that you do is it, should be taking on these really big, difficult, interesting questions. You can definitely handle it, but it's up to you. But it is an important question, because if you look at human evolution on planet Earth and you understand the science, you will begin to see that over a long period of time, we have evolved from other creatures. In fact, if you go further back, we break it down into chemicals, and we get into all sorts of other, particles that we have evolved from, that grew into creatures, that grew into us, and how the brain grew. So we're nature's most amazing story of slow evolution. We're the prime example of what evolution can do. We have not always been like this. And if we go somewhere else, the environment changes, we will become something else. What will we be? Aria, go ahead.
The topic of evolution, if you look at a lot of animal species, whenever they go through a large type of like adaptation to their environment, the majority of the species does end up dying because they couldn't handle that environment. But the small percentage that does, they eventually are the next step towards evolution.
Extinction is so common
Yeah.
in history.
So if humans were to evolve outside of space, the majority would end up dying from that process for the smaller percentage with the right chemical or enzyme or anything to continue and evolve more.
Yes and no, because we have to remember that we humans are breaking the laws of nature. And so it's possible that we won't die in such numbers. But if you look at the history of life on this planet, a lot has died. But we humans are changing the game. We're changing the bodies. We're changing the climate. We're going elsewhere. So nature now, even the question of what nature is, some are asking, is that just a human thing? are we going to be changing everything?
And final question I was thinking about. When we're going out into space and we find different planets and we find out like a sustainable planet for ourselves, my question is like what kind of species will we find there? Will we find like similar looking chickens just with arms and legs, or will we be finding totally different species, but they and how they taste as well? Do they taste the same as chicken? Do they taste like pork? I'm
I would make a suggestion that for your final assignment, you find out which exoplanet, which is Earth-like planet in another solar system, is considered by the scientists today as being the one place that may have the closest conditions for life. And what do they think might be up there? Just find that, because there's several exoplanets. They're called exoplanets, extrasolar planets. They're outside our solar system, and we're discovering more and more of them now. But there may be one or two in what the scientists are finding now that could help you to answer that, or what they're speculating might be there. That could be your assignment, what they're finding, or they think might be found there, what they think is there, and what they were beginning to find in the one planet, Kiara, that maybe have the most potential to be a place where we will find some kind of life, some kind of consciousness. Anyways, good questions, good ideas. Okay, let's make sure that we're on track. And also, Kanisha, can you, get it? It's always Kanisha. Are we missing anything?
I think Kiara said it very nicely. Like she was thinking she said what I was thinking, like what we're gonna look like. I was actually looking on Netflix. There was a particular show that was like on prime time where the humans couldn't live on Earth because it was just like completely destroyed. So they lived in space. Is it Wally? No. It was like it went on for like 8 seasons. It was like a
Wally's just a
long-
it's a one-off.
It was a long show.
And okay, go on.
So like they ended up living in space for how many years? And what they decided to do was they didn't tell the kids, but they told like the teens, like, hey, we're gonna send you down to Earth. Like they punished them and like send them down to Earth, see if they would survive, and they ended up surviving. And then everybody else was on the space shuttle, ended up coming down, and they realized like even though the planet was so-called dead, you were able to breathe, you were still able to get food, and that people after like the whole Earth was like pretty much demolished, people ended up living on the Earth after it was completely destroyed. So those people were like different than the people that were able to be up in space. Yeah. So it's like it makes me wonder, like, are we gonna get to the point to where we can't live on Earth and then we have to live up in space?
That's another question that I would suggest you answer in your final assignment.
It's a very scary thought. Like we keep going the way we're going and we're not thinking about how we're not sustaining what we're doing. We're just like keep going and we're not thinking, oh, we're gonna cause more damage than good at the end of the day.
Could you do what Erica did and go write that out on a slide?
Oh wait, Erica had to go, but she's told me to say something.
Oh, so she's still in the class. See, this is good. This is exactly what it's set up to do. And then we'll come to Ethan in a moment, and then we're gonna move on and let Aria come up and do iron-blooded.
Okay, she says
steel-blooded or steel.
She says, in case I can't talk before I leave, can you mention I said in relation to space exploration that I don't particularly like the idea that the only exploring space and taking human innovation to space, why not also search for something we can bring to Earth? Whether an idea or a material found in space that can add to human life on Earth.
That's a good thought. We haven't heard that one yet, which is we might discover something out there positive we bring back that can help. Now, in A City on Mars, the two authors, they try to destroy that argument and say that's crazy. But there are a lot of people who agree with Erica that we should be going because we may discover something that could help things down here. It's a great great question. Is there something out there? Thank you, Erica, if you're live, or thank her on the for the chat. So let's make sure that we've got the live chat dealt with, and then we're going to move on with this, and also just identify something there that maybe we have to about what's missing. Ethan has written. Ethan, would you be able to jump on your microphone and just read out loud what you've written?
Yeah, so I said space junk poses a huge risk, not just when leaving Earth, but when we start exploring the stars. We'll need to think about better ways to reduce our population, or sorry, our pollution in space.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think that you're kind of linked to Area on this one in terms of you're saying, you know, we got to think about sustainability. We can't be creating all this junk. That's old way of thinking, right, Ethan? We've got to go.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, we got to learn from the mistakes that we made on Earth and not bring them into space with us.
That's right. And creating needless waste, or just not thinking about the disposal of waste, that's old-fashioned. We think about waste a lot now. We have to.
Mhm.
That's the new way, right? That's absolutely. Daniel?
We were actually just talking about this, but why don't we just send it, like all of our like the space junk, just send it to the sun? It'll just burn.
Huh? What-
It's way too big. Like for the junk that he's suggesting, I'm assuming it's based off just like satellites that are just like
Yeah.
around our orbit. If we just send those, for example, if that classifies as space junk, they're small enough where I don't really think it'll affect the sun very much.
So it's a very you're thinking creatively, Daniel, which is great. You're going so you've actually made a connection that nobody has yet. You're saying, let's send all our waste to the sun and burn it there, because the inside the sun, it's so hot. We're talking 15 million degrees
Yeah.
Celsius or something, and that's where all of our our atoms get created, whether it was helium or carbon or iron. All comes from the nuclear fusion in the sun. So you're saying burn the waste inside the sun.
Exactly. Foolproof plan.
I would suggest that as being your final assignment topic. Could the sun be a sustainable
Yes.
garbage disposal site that burns garbage safely and does not affect the environment or the area around the sun?
Yeah.
I have no idea, Daniel, but I love the fact that you asked it.
And if that doesn't work, just shoot it off into like deep space.
Well, now that's shoot it off into deep space.
Exactly.
Maureen, yeah, okay, crap. Maureen wants to say something. Come, Maureen, that's great. That's old way of thinking, Daniel. We got to think about where things go.
Well, in terms of this idea, I would think there would be different perspectives or different things to take into consideration in terms of like physics. So it's easy to kind of fathom Earth and the sun and like the distance, but if you actually see the actual distance and the different like G-force, right? Like different forces of the planets on the way to the sun, would it be sustainable to kind of build and fuel such a spaceship or rocket or whatever that would take all of that? And then obviously like the trajectory to the sun, like there's other planets, they have their own kind of gravity forces, whatever comes into
Right.
play.
Yep.
So I feel like taking all of that into consideration might not be the most sustainable in terms of physics.
Sure. Yep.
But if we get to the point where space junk becomes an actual problem,
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I think that we've progressed enough where we'd be able to like jump to different planets, or at least be far enough where we could send something on a direct course to the sun to explode and burn.
Ethan, this is really interesting because you've brought up a problem. What do you think about
I think it's false.
the idea of, where do we put this space junk? If there's going to be more space junk and we continue to create it as opposed to not create it, and there's more of it, where should it go? What do you think?
Oh boy, I wish I had the answer to that. I think this like just disposing it somewhere like a sun is a great idea, but like the other student brought up, just the logistics of actually doing that, because I think there's like 8 or 9,000 metric tons of space junk just orbiting Earth right now. So it's just a huge logistical problem that I
Yeah.
think just it costs way too much to just transport it right now with the technology that we have that is just out of our reach. So I think that the best way to reduce is just recycle. Just try to reuse.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
That's a great. And do you know if any of that junk can be brought back to the Earth or can be kept there, but recycled into something else that is useful for anything?
Most of it is just a lot of old satellites, or it's all just broken up in very tiny pieces, but they're still so tiny and they're moving so fast that they pose a risk. So
Sure.
we can't reuse the junk, but I'm sure down the road with new technologies and when we start exploring space, we could find ways to reuse it.
Good. It's great, great ideas. By the way, Ethan speaks about speed and the junk moving fast. Do you know that the astronauts, when they're on the space station or any kind of exploration that's being done, there's the tiniest particle coming at you in space is going so fast, it's a concern because of the speed, the velocity that it's moving at. So little things moving around can cause damage and have to be thought about. Okay. What I'd like to do is do one thing before Aria comes up, and then we're going to conclude the class with Aria today and her presentation. So you're going to be doing your final assignment today. You didn't know that, huh? No, I'm not yet. We have a list of what we're missing that Maureen has been kind enough to put up in her good calligraphy. Let's look at if there's one that we think is critical, crucial, that we can, I'm not going to say vote on, but we'll just take a look and review for a second. What we're missing: more sustainable methods for space exploration, how we can explore off planet and not disturb the environment, future evolution of humankind, explore resources to bring back to Earth, and then finally, maybe, oh, you got to go. I'll put it on. It's okay. Space debris, space junk, garbage in space. What do we do? But that's the sustainability part here. And I would just sort of do something like this. So space junk. Okay, so I'm just going to make an executive decision based on what I see and say that it's all important. It's up there. And that this will all be in the notes and you can refer to later. These are good points you've all made. Okay, so in the cosmos, Sarah, Brooklyn, Ethan, anything you would like to add before we move on? And of course, the live chat will be saved too as a resource in terms of this conversation. So if there's anything you want to add, guys, in the cosmos, put it in the live chat. Otherwise, okay. Did we not? I'm going to, let me do it then, okay? Let me come over. Yeah, let me scroll. Okay, so that was about the assignments. That's Aria, and she's teeing up what Sarah, maybe even more about other possible life. Yeah, so we'll add this. This will be part of what we're missing, and it will be saved in the live chat. So maybe more about other possible life out there. I don't have much I think is missing, but yeah, it's the exoplanets. That's where you need to be targeting in terms of understanding, because there's a lot of work, Sarah, being done now by scientists on understanding more about these exoplanets. That's where we're going to find any life. So, Sarah, do you understand what an exoplanet is in the way I've described it? Okay. Or yes? Or no, really no? I don't know if you put no, like you're just having fun, or is it really true? You're not? Do you want me to explain a little bit of what an exoplanet is? Okay. Just billion stars like our sun in the Milky Way galaxy. Okay, that's a galaxy is a collection of stars. We humans have not been able to even venture yet into another solar system in our galaxies, in our Milky Way galaxy. In other words, we've only gone to the moon. We've only stood on the moon, and we've sent some probes beyond and are starting to see into other solar systems right now. And we're starting to discover in some of the other solar systems neighboring us that there are these planets around them, the stars in those solar systems. They're called exoplanets, extrasolar planets. They are outside of our solar system. That's why we say exoplanet, exosol, outside of our extrasolar, outside of our solar. Scientists are now looking at closely the idea that there are some planets, exoplanets, in other solar systems that have similar conditions that we have here, and are in also their Goldilocks zones too, which is they're not too hot and not too cold. And that they think there might be something there, but we haven't been able to get close enough with our probes to even see what's there. It's speculation. Does that make sense, Sarah? Good. Okay. Good. Brooklyn, honestly, why haven't we been to Mars yet? Technology is advancing, so why haven't they made a rocket that can hold enough fuel to get someone to Mars and back? Normally, I spend a whole class talking about Mars, but I didn't this semester. And let me just take a look at this again. Brooklyn, I would recommend that you understand something about rocket propulsion and rocket fuel and how difficult it is to create the kind of power with, I think it's liquid. It's a liquid energy source that is part of the propulsion that pushes rockets forwards. But this is a very new and growing field, Brooklyn. And in order to get to Mars, we need the propulsion. And we don't have it yet. Not quite. It's not that easy. I don't know if that answers Brooklyn. Yeah, okay. But that's part of the problem. Okay. And then of course we have Ethan's point that we've dealt with. So let's finally get to the best part of today's class. Aria, do you want to come up here, please, and introduce a scene? And I can tee it up for you because it's in the. I'm going to go to my email and I'm going to pull the link. So grab a microphone, and Aria is going to. Here it is, and oh, you even give me a timestamp. Okay, let me see what happens. Okay, let's see. So let's see if it goes. If we're lucky, it might. Oh, good. So 13. So what do I need to do to go to 1344? Do I need to sign in? Okay. So, but then they'll see. I can cover. I don't want them to see your. Is it okay? Because I can just do this. Watch this. I'm getting better at this stuff. Okay. There's the space station. Take a look at the space station while we check out. It's the view from ISS. So let's go into this. Okay. So you go ahead and. So Aria is teeing everything up for us. And right now, the space station camera looking down on the planet is lost its signal. So we're offline. Yeah. If you want to see really where it is, so that's, if you see where it says offline, it means it's gone offline because the signal is lost. You'll see in the middle, just under Indian Ocean, it says offline. When the signal is restored, it will say live now. But it's showing some just some archival footage of the planet. But where it is actually is this is telling us right here. Let me bring it over here. I don't know if I can bring my cursor. Yeah, I lose my cursor, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to do it this way. Here's the space station right now. It's actually over the Maldives. It's around the Indian Ocean area, right here, just at the tip of around Sri Lanka, actually, Indian Ocean. That's where it is. But we're seeing something else. But as these words change, the Laccadive Sea or however, that's telling us where it actually is. We just can't see that. No, they just put some old footage there. They put some old material of the camera having recorded earlier in the day, maybe, or something. So what we're seeing right now, that's not the sea, the Laccadive Sea. It's something else. But we are live over the sea. We just can't see it because of the signal being lost. I know. That's right. It would. It would. Okay. So what do I do now? Okay. So, oh, you've teed it up. Wonderful. Okay. So I'm going to bring this back and I'm going to go full screen. I think I can do that. Okay. So as soon as I'm ready, I will play this. It's teed up, but Aria needs to introduce this. So please go ahead.
So this is episode 2 of IBO, and basically what happened in the previous episode was Galahorn, the military organization, tried to stage an assassination on Cordelia, the blonde-haired girl, while she was at the CGS military camp. And the first corpse, which is all the grown men, they tricked all the children, which was second corpse, into fighting Galahorn, and several, like about 50 children, ended up dying because they were fighting like real military organizations and equipment. But thankfully, Mika was able to like use an old Gundam they had to like stop Galahorn and protect Cordelia from being killed. Now we're in episode 2, and this is a flashback of Cordelia during one of her conferences, explaining the state of Mars and why they need independence.
Oh, great. We're back to Mars. It's excellent. Okay, so for the ones watching online in the Cosmos, the link, we want to, can I, is there any way I can give them a link to watch this?
Still use the same link. Like, you just share it.
Well, the tech is all wonky here. Let me just see if we can come up with a quick solution. You're suggesting
I could put the link in the chat.
Could you put the link in the chat for them?
They'll just have to watch it with ads. But that's
Okay. Okay. So Aria is going to put the link in there. That's the easiest. Now I'm going to run it for us. Okay. Good. Thank you. Go ahead. The audio, the video. Go ahead. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Okay. It might be my system, but okay. Do a little troubleshoot, and I'll check the notes, and then we'll see. It may be because it's interacting with my podium, but if not. Okay, so we're looking at Iron-Blooded Orphans, episode 2. Okay. Okay, let me see. It's my system possibly that's causing the video loss, right? Now, is it possible we can grab this from YouTube? Is the audio sufficient that we use our imaginations if we just listen? Then let's use our imaginations and just play the audio and do what humans do. Okay? Here's our video. Is that it, more or less? We want to come back to Earth, don't we? It's getting romantic. It's getting romantic. Wow. There is love in the universe. Yes. Love is good. We'll work on getting this. We have a link that's come in. Hold on. I'll stop for a second. And just a moment. We'll stop. We've got a link in from Area. Okay, let's try this. Oh no, that's another link. Sorry, I was thinking Ethan for a moment. So this is something else, Area that's you, but it might work here. Try it. Okay, well let's see. If not, then we'll just call it a day. And this may throw everything off, but that's okay. Let's try it. Okay. Oh, so we get another tab here. Right. Okay. So Yeah. Something's happening here. The video is getting blocked. Yeah. Would you finish explaining what happens, and then we're going to conclude the class at least? Let's wrap this up. We did the best we could, okay, with this. And is there something you'd like us to think about in terms of the scene you chose around humanity's destiny? Go ahead.
So, since we didn't get to see the scene, I'll just explain it. But during her conference, she was obviously talking about poverty and why, like, the children were the main victims. But in the scene, it shows different ways the children are suffering. Some of them were on the streets and they were extremely, like, underfed. Some of them were, a lot of the young girls were put into prostitution because they couldn't feed themselves. And a lot of the young boys were put into military organizations where they had like the guns and the helmets and stuff. And a lot of the young boys, they're put into an operation called the Alea Vignana system, where they inject like a device into your spinal cord so that you can basically use mobile workers, which is like a machine that could like function on Mars, and it has guns and stuff. But the thing about the operation is there's a very high chance you can die, and a lot of the young boys end up getting kidnapped from their homes or off the streets, forced into the operations, or they go willingly to get a job for money. They end up dying. Some of them get paralyzed for life when they don't get to move, and others, they get the system, the operation successful, and they go into the military, and they end up either dying in the military or just barely making money.
I'd like to end today's class with a difficult question for you to help us understand. Is there anything in this series that gives us hope for humanity?
Yes.
And what is that?
Near the end of season 1, the Tekiden crew, which is formerly known as CGS,
Yes.
the children do end up getting Kudelia to Earth, where she starts advocating for Mars independency.
Yes.
And like they're successfully making it out of the poor military life. And they've changed it so that children who come into work, they get proper pay. They don't have to go through the operation anymore. And basically it's
Good.
better. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I'm gonna spoil it.
Okay, well, we'll stop, but at least
no one's gonna watch this one, but season 2, then Galahorn starts having an issue with Tekiden because Tekiden's getting more and more well known
Mhm.
as the advocates for Kudelia, and Kudelia is getting closer to Mars independency. So there's a coup that happens in Galahorn.
a coup.
A coup.
A coup, yeah, a coup. It's spelled coup, but it's coup. A coup.
Because
Yeah, a
it's
coup.
in
Yeah.
French style.
Sure, yeah, it's a coup.
But all the main characters, including Orga, Mika, Akihiro. There's another character named Naze. He runs Space Mafia or something. They get killed.
They get killed. Oh.
Yeah, Mika dies. Orga dies. Orga's assassinated by one of the political figures on
Mhm.
Mars who didn't want independency. But there's still Eugene, which is the blonde guy with the green hair. He ends up living, and he partners up with Kudelia. And unfortunately, she has to partner up with Galahorn to finally get Mars independency.
So it's really interesting that in the end, the human desire for rights, human rights, is really powerful, and that it's independence. We don't say independency, independence. Okay, just independence. A coup. I need to correct you. That's my job. Well, I just wanted to establish that. I was curious to see if this series is relentlessly dark and dystopian, like it was sounding, or whether there's something there that should give us hope. And there sounds to be a little something. Okay, so listen, everybody, I think we can conclude. And I have to say, I really love when you come up, or it could be any student next week who has something to show and talk about. Please, we may have something going here, which I think it would be great to end the classes with a student coming up and presenting something from popular culture and talking about how it speaks to humanity's destiny. So, Daniel, if there's something you want to bring next week, you can do what Aria did today, or Aria, you can do it again, or Kanisha, Kiera, Zach, same. But I think that we can basically say goodbye for today, Sarah. And oh, Sarah's still there. Brooklyn's gone. Have a good week. And if there's anything you need me for, just shoot me an email. All right? Anything else? Otherwise, I'm turning off my microphone and the class is done. The class is done.